Hi guys, welcome back to Rue Morgue TV. I am executive editor Andrea Subasati, and we are hot off another FRIGHTMARE in the Falls convention, our annual event that takes place in Niagara Falls, Ontario. This year we did a panel with the one and only Bill Moseley, and it's moderated by our music editor Aaron von Lupton. So check out the episode, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Guess who's at the door right now? Living legend, Bill Chop Top Moseley. Woohoo! How you doing?
Is that water for me?
That water's for you. They didn't really ration it out.
This looks like a miniature set of War of the Worlds.
I didn't know how to introduce you. Actually, I was like, you've had so many huge roles. I don't know which one is that. Whoa, careful! I didn't know how to introduce you. But for me, without a doubt, it is Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's a very special part in my heart.
Dog will hunt.
Dogs will hunt. Lick my plate.
Get that bitch. All right.
I say we just sit here and do quotes all night, right? Fuck the questions.
We could. All right.
But that was a huge role for you. That was kind of the biggest role for you at that time, and kind of put you on the map.
Well, first of all, thank you for showing up, and nice to be here. My wife and I have been here now 5 days. We know not all of Niagara Falls, but we do know the Flying Saucer restaurant. So
oh yeah,
we had a nice breakfast there yesterday. So it's awesome. Okay, well, I was working on a dude ranch. That's okay. I was working on a dude ranch. I know I've told this story a lot. No,
he's like
I was working on a dude ranch in Wyoming back in 1980. I don't know, 1984. And I was working with a kid named John Wright, who was a little 16-year-old brat from Geneseo, Illinois, who had a sugar problem. And John would eat he would drink the bug juice and eat the fudgesicles and the frosted flakes. And then he would work under the hot Wyoming sun, and he would go into what I called sugar deliriums. So he would then start to, speak in tongues, basically. He would sing top 40 songs. He would do cartoon characters, commercial jingles. And one day we're working, I'm like so sick of this guy. And he's going like, Captain Crunch, Captain Crunch. And then all of a sudden he goes, Texas Chainsaw Manicure. And then Captain Crunch, and I was like, whoa. And out of that patter of his, I heard that. And I went, Texas Chainsaw Manicure. And went back to the bunkhouse, and I wrote a 5-minute scenario about a woman who goes to a beauty parlor and wants, gets her hair done, sitting under the dryer, wants a manicure, and, out from the back comes Leatherface with his smoking chainsaw. So I came back to New York City where I was living. I gathered some people. We took over a beauty parlor on Staten Island, and we shot the Texas Chainsaw Manicure. Now, at the end of the manicure, what happens is Leatherface comes out and starts sawing on her fingers, and the lady's is screaming, and he's sawing away, and she passes out, and then the beautician comes over and kind of slaps her cheek to wake her up, and she goes, no, oh. And she's got a fabulous manicure. And she goes out to the pickup truck to show her husband, played by me, dressed up as the hitchhiker from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the great Ed Neal. And she goes, look, honey, I got the best manicure ever. And I had watched that Chainsaw movie about 10 times. So I went, hey, that's great, honey. We should celebrate with some head cheese. And I went out and actually bought a lump of head cheese, which I do not recommend. Some of you may like it, but what I've been told is it's basically they take everything that's left of the pig that isn't going into the bologna or the bacon, goes into the head cheese. The lips, the scrotum, the eyeballs. It just, so some people like it, but, anyway, so I, offered up this head cheese to my wife, and I think in one take I actually licked it, which I do regret. But flash forward, a friend of mine was in Hollywood, working as a screenwriter. He and his partner had just written Who Framed Roger Rabbit, so they were a hot young team. They were at Paramount Pictures right across the hall from Tobe Hooper, who directed the original Chainsaw. And I was there. I went to Los Angeles to, cover something for a magazine I was writing for. And I showed my friend a copy of The Manicure. And he said, shit, I'm right across the hall from Tobe Hooper. I should probably walk this, leave me a copy, I'll walk it over. So he did. It was VHS way back when, 1984. And Tobe watched it. Tobe loved The Manicure. And Tobe especially loved my performance as the hitchhiker. And my friend also, not only did he walk The Manicure over, but he got Toby's home number and told me to call in about a week. So I got back to New York. I called Tobe Hooper, and a miracle happened, which I later found out was a miracle, and that was that he actually answered his own phone. And he goes, hello. And I go, hi, Tobe. It's Bill Moseley. And he goes, who? I said, yeah, I did the Manicure. And he goes, oh, yeah, hey, Bill. Yeah, I love The Manicure. He said, now, who played the hitchhiker character? And I went, well, that was me. And he goes, well, if I ever do a sequel, I'll keep you in mind. That was 1984. 2 years later, I heard from the screenwriter of Chainsaw 2, Kit Carson, called me up out of the blue one night in New York, told me it was, I could tell it was long distance back then. There was a sizzle on the phone, long distance. And it was Kit Carson saying, where shall I send the script? And I was like, what? And but it sounded long distance, and of course that had a certain extra importance. So I gave him my address, and he sent me the script. This was before the internet, and so it had to actually come through the mail. And I got it. I read it. He told me to keep an eye on Chop Top, and I thought, holy shit, that's a big part. I was like, whoa, wow. And called him back, told him I loved it. He said, that's great. You'll be hearing from us. And the next call I got was from Canon Films' legal department saying, do you have an agent or do you want to negotiate your own contract? And I'm like going, what the hell's going on here? And I'd met an agent in New York at a Christmas party, so I called her up and to see if she would want to negotiate a contract, and that's free money to an agent. So she said, sure. So she called me back. At the time, I was working as a freelance writer in New York. I was maybe averaging $250 a week. And she called back and she said, well, they want you for this part. I've got some good news and some bad news. I said, well, what's the good news? And she said, well, they want you for this part. And I said, God, that's amazing. That's great. She goes, I said, well, what's the bad news? Well, they're only going to pay you scale. And I went, scale? Wow, it doesn't sound good. I mean, I used to work in a fish market. Scale, it's not good. And she said, oh, I don't know, I think it's like $1,600 a week. And I'm like, that's bad news. I make that in a year. And she said, well, yeah, but there's more bad news. And I said, well, what's that? And she said, well, you'd have to wear a prosthetic, something on the side of your head, so they need you to shave your head. And I said, okay, not a problem. And she said, so I told them that since you were a professional actor, not true, that by shaving your head, you wouldn't get a job for a while. So they've agreed to pay you $5,000 to shave your head. I'm like, oh my God, what? What the hell? What have I been missing? So that's a long explanation, but that's how I got the job.
But it is cool because the whole Texas Chainsaw Manicure thing, I had never heard of that movie before. And speaking of movies that I'd never heard of before, there was
I've done a lot of them.
The All-American Massacre.
Right.
I had never heard about that until recently, that it was actually the one role where you got to reprise Chop Top. Yep. And it was directed by Tobe Hooper's son, but never came out. So
never came out. Well, it was supposed to be Tobe Hooper's son, Tony, had written a 10-minute scenario. And it was really supposed to be kind of a backyard production, which was to show off his computer graphic skills. And so he imagined, a Chop Top 10 years in the future from Chainsaw 2, looking back on before Chainsaw 1, and back in the time when the Hitchhiker and Chop Top were twin brothers living at home. And it was really cool because I met a guy on the shoot that was a really big Chop Top fan and a special effects makeup guy named Todd Bates. And Todd was going to play Chop Top, he was going to play the Hitchhiker, and I was going to play Chop Top. It was interesting because Todd was one of the few people that I had met that knew how to do the Chop Top makeup. Because that's pretty complicated. You got to put a ball cap on a plate and kind of make it look like it's actually part of your head, and hang some, string some hair and some teeth, and get that lighter and the coat I mean, that's a lot of stuff. So he was going to do that. So we actually shot that. The Leatherface was played with a fat suit by the world's greatest guitar player named Buckethead. So Buckethead was Leatherface, how unlikely is that? And I was Chop Top, and my buddy Todd was the Hitchhiker, and we did that. Well, All American Massacre started getting bigger and bigger, and finally kind of didn't work anymore. So it never really came out because it was really just supposed to be guys having fun in the backyard. But what happened from that was that I met Todd Bates. And Todd could do the Chop Top makeup. So about maybe a year or so later, this is like 99 now, I got a call from a friend of mine who was the publicity guy at Universal City Walk in Burbank, California. And Universal was doing this little this kind of in-house horror award show called the Igor Awards. And they were looking for an MC. And so my friend called me up and said, "You're a monster, right?" And I went, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, would you like to MC this horror award show?" And I said, "Yeah. Can I get made up as Chop Top?" And he said, "Well, let me check, because it's not a Universal character." So I went, "Okay." So he was checking, and he came back and he said, "Well, you were in Army of Darkness, so you're part of the Universal family, whatever that means. And so, yes, you can come as Chop Top." So they gave me a little extra money to get the makeup guy. So Todd and a friend came and made me up as Chop Top. And I emceed this horror award show in like a ratty tuxedo as Chop Top with a plate and the hanger. And, "Hey, lick my plate." And one of the award recipients back in that fateful October 99 was a guy named Rob Zombie. And Rob came out. It turns out Rob had been nominated for a lot of really cool awards, but had never won anything. And this was his big night. He's winning an Igor Award. Now, that's not a Grammy. It's not an Oscar. It was a little winged demon statue. So it wasn't, the greatest award necessarily. But he won it. And so I said, "And here he is, Rob Zombie." Now, my daughter had Hillbilly Deluxe and was really big on Rob. She was 12 or 13 at the time. And she had brought along a friend, so they were like, "Rob Zombie." He later said that he came out, because he was backstage, and he was listening to me going, "The guy's doing a decent Chop Top. Not great, but he's pretty good." And then he comes out and says, "Oh, holy fuck, it's Chop Top." And so I gave him his award. He was very happy about that. And then we talked backstage. He was with his girlfriend, Sherry. His parents, he had brought his parents along. So we all had a great chat and introduced my daughter, got a lot of good dad points on that. And, everything was happy. And then, but that was the end of it. Well, about a month later, I got a call. So this was November of 99. I got a call from Rob's manager, Andy Gould, who called me at home and said, "Rob's just gotten his script greenlit," which means money, and it's called House of a Thousand Corpses, and he was wondering if you'd like to play this character called Otis. And at the time, I don't even think I was getting extra work, so I went, "Yep, sure." And so they sent the script over, and Otis. It's like, oh my God, what? Whoa. So at first, I thought that Rob wanted basically his own version of Chop Top. So the early Otis kind of was more Chop Top than Otis. But what Rob had this vision of Otis as kind of, but it's kind of a skinny, scary guy, but still more of a stud than Chop Top. Chop Top is all about the shoulders. It's about, the lighter and the coat hanger. Hey, lick my plates all up here. Whereas Otis, if I may demonstrate, Otis is right here. Like, hey, fuck you. So that's kind of moving down in the body. And I didn't really see that. I didn't see myself as that character, but Rob did, which is a great relief because he basically, what he ended up doing was prying my fingers off Chop Top. When you get to Hollywood and you get any kind of success, your character, it's like Chop Top, it's like your life raft, Chop Top or your life belt. And what Rob did was gently but firmly pried my fingers off Chop Top and led me to Otis. And, that's been working for 20 years now.
Yeah, and you had mentioned, the Igor Award not being an Oscar or something like that, but the Otis character did actually lead you to get a campaign, right, to get you nominated for an Oscar, I believe, after Devil's Rejects, because people were so in love with the character.
Yes.
I can't imagine why it didn't happen, but...
Well, I don't think the Academy Award is quite ready for Devil's Rejects.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because now in bios I see of myself online, it goes, yes, and Otis, which led to, what is it called? Like, not an effort to, a campaign. That's what I'm looking for, to get me nominated. And then it goes, yes, campaign to nominate him for an Academy Award, period. And the next sentence, it failed. It's like, come on, man. Let's just take that out.
I like, though, that you say that, you were struggling to get the extra work because you do have a lot of these very, small parts scattered along the way in what I consider big horror films. Like, one of my favorite horror remakes is the 1988 Blob. And you had a tiny role in that, right? You were a soldier in the sewer who's wounded or something.
Hey, soldier number 2, man.
Soldier number 2, something.
We're number 2.
But you got Chuck Russell directing, and it's Frank Darabont, and it's. Why didn't you get sort of a more meatier role out of that film? Do you think?
I never auditioned for it. Well, I did actually. I had a friend named Nick Love who had gotten the part. Who had a friend actually. It wasn't even Nick Love. He was a friend of mine, and a friend of his had gotten the part of soldier number 2. I don't know. Why do you have to audition for soldier number 2? But and that's one thing I learned for all of you aspiring actors: go for a name part. Soldier number 2, man number 3. Washerwoman. That's not going to really advance your career.
Man at restaurant.
And neither did soldier number 2 by that. But my buddy Nick Love had a friend who was soldier number 2. And I guess had fought his way to soldier number 2, and but then got a better deal, or for some reason couldn't do the part. Mm-hmm. So he, I guess, told that to Nick, who then recommended me. Thanks. And so I ended up driving up from Los Angeles, about an hour north, to the town of Valencia, where they were shooting The Blob, and they were in the process. They were actually underway. And so I went up to Chuck Russell's office. I waited for him. And then Chuck came up. There was a break in the shooting, and the director, Chuck Russell, came up. And he kind of, okay. And so I did my whole thing, and, it was exciting back then. And he goes, "Can you start tomorrow?" And I said, "Fuck yeah." Or heck yeah, probably. And so I got a job on The Blob. And I remember going back home, because it was my first Hollywood job after I'd moved from New York after Chop Top, because someone had said you should go to Hollywood. And I'm already a freelance writer, which, you're basically on the edge. So what could be worse than being a freelance writer? An actor in Hollywood. It's like, and I had a pregnant girlfriend. It's like, yeah, honey, let's go to Hollywood. That was crazy. So,
no pressure.
We went to Hollywood, and that was my first job, and I was so excited to get that job. I came home. Actually, by then, we'd now had a kid, and our kid was a couple years old, I guess, because the three of us formed a conga line, and we walked around the apartment going, "I got a job on The Blob, yeah. I got a job on The Blob, yeah. We were so happy about it. And then it was supposed to be one day's work, and then one of the actors hurt herself, bruised her coccyx in the wet set, and so we had to come back a second day. And then because the set was wet and cold with air conditioning, and outside was hot California, she had taken too much niacin. And I think to ward off colds or whatever, but she took too much, and so her skin started burning. It's not very funny. I mean, not smoking, but she was like red and hot, I guess. And so she needed to go to the doctor again. So it ended up being, from one day it turned out to be a 3-day job. So when I was at the cast and crew screening, months later, when her credit came up on the screen, I think I was the only one that stood up and went, "Yay!" Because she tripled my cash. So.
Well, there you go. You did get a more substantial role in the great Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3, though.
Oh yeah,
you did.
Yes, I did.
And was that kind of was that through your new Hollywood life that you got that role?
Yes, my new Hollywood life, which whatever that means. Yeah, I don't even remember how I got that role. I think the only jobs I ever get are when I don't audition. When I do audition, I never get the part. But when I don't audition, people just look at me and they just think, "Oh my God, there he is. That's the one I was thinking of." Then I get the job. Silent Night, Deadly Night 3 was actually a great job. I played Ricky, the Santa Claus killer. Monty Hellman, the great American auteur who did, a lot of fabulous movies like Cockfighter, what is it, Two-Lane Blacktop maybe? I mean, whatever. Monty Hellman, Montehellman. And he looked at me and said, "You are my Ricky Caldwell." And Ricky Caldwell is like a psycho who, has a brain injury and goes to the hospital. And then, he's actually... He walks around as Santa Claus, dressed as Santa Claus, killing people. So when the movie first came out, it was very controversial because, oh my God, Santa Claus, a serial killer? That was just a horrifying thought way back then. Now, of course, it's pretty commonplace. But anyway, so I got the job as Ricky. Part 3 was where I'd already had my, head shot apart. In part 2, I guess, and which I never did see. But anyway, so I come out of I'm in some kind of coma or something, and they put my head back together with Scotch tape, I guess, and then they give me this what they call the brain cap, and the brain cap was basically a clear plastic salad bowl upside down on my head that had little lights blinking on it, and in the center was an orange rubber brain that had like a swirling liquid. So I would walk around with this little blinking thing, with this brain cap, with this swirling juice on my fake brain. And what I did over the mirror in my trailer was I wrote myself this, this encouraging line, which was "Outshine the brain cap." Because, the brain cap was, everybody's looking at the brain cap. They don't see the actor underneath it. So I worked very hard to kind of outshine the brain cap.
So music is actually right up there with acting for you. You're a pretty talented musician. You played with Buckethead a little bit, did you not?
Yeah, about 10 years. Yep.
And your music, in terms of a music career, it took a bit of a different turn when you got cast in Repo, the genetic opera.
Right.
Different type
Yep.
of film. Yeah.
I'm the smartest and the toughest. I will find a hole and fuck it. If there ain't one, I will make one. Luigi, don't take shit from no one. Brain, mark it up. Only I got brains enough. That's why Pop will leave gene code to me. Me.
Shot in Toronto, so thank you.
Yeah, very, very different role for you to be involved in a musical. So how did you get involved in that particular project with Darren Lynn Bousman?
Well, Darren and I had met on the horror convention circuit, and I had actually seen a friend of mine who did not know Darren. Darren actually directed Repo as a storefront play or musical on Hollywood Boulevard a couple of years before he actually shot the movie Repo. And I had gone to a performance of one of these storefront productions. And a year or two later, I was at a convention, San Jose, and there was kind of this sliding wall between two venues or two stages, and I was done with my Q&A, and I heard through the sliding door, I heard Darren describing this show, which sounded a lot like the thing I had seen, Repo. And I talked to him later. I said, man, I saw that show. It was really cool. Well, when he got the money, because he did Saw 2, 3, and 4 for Twisted Pictures, Lionsgate, and he had done so well with that. I think they made like $250 million. So they gave Darren, some money to, do your dream job. Well, it was Repo, and Darren came up to me and said, we'd like to have you in this movie, but and we know you can kill, but can you sing? And I said, well, Darren, I've given you a couple of those Cornbug CDs, the music I did with Buckethead. And Darren said, yes, but can you sing? I was like, thanks, Darren. So the good news is for the last, 27 years, I've taken a singing class every week in Los Angeles. So, as an actor, you really have to have a voice. Singing lesson is great. We sing Beatles and Eagles. That's how old I am. And so, I was able to, Darren gave me a song to sing in an audition for Repo. So I took that to my singing teacher, and we worked on it to try to get the dramatic thing going on in the song, whatever people do, sing songs dramatically. And anyway, so I was prepared, and I went to the studio the night that Darren was having singing auditions, and I got in. I was pretty confident, but then I got into the studio, and I was with all the guys, Darren and the music directors and the co-writers, and we're all looking down through a glass window down into the studio, and the person I'm following is one of the Pussycat Dolls. Now, I don't know if you all know the Pussycat Dolls, but, and there's this, this woman, she's fantastic. She's singing and doing her Broadway, kicking her legs up, and and I'm going, I am fucked. Whoa. So I was thinking, man, I am no Pussycat Doll. And so they said, thank you very much. So she left, and, oh, man. They said, okay, Bill, you're next. And I was like, oh. So I went down into the studio. I cozied up to the microphone, and they wanted me to test a few things, so I sang a few notes or whatever. And I realized this microphone is amazing. And it was really making me sound awesome. And I don't really know what it was. I really give my part in Repo to that golden microphone. It was almost like singing in the shower, where all of a sudden you really sound like, David Bowie or whoever you're singing. And so I sang the song, and I remember looking up at the, all the guys up there looking down, making a note or whatever they were doing. And they were all like, so it was like, wow. And then Darren offered me, he said, well, you got the part, but you actually have a choice between two parts. You can either be Luigi Largo or you can be Pavi Largo. And Pavi, he wears other people's faces, and he's got this face, this crazy face, and he looks in a mirror and he does all of his stuff. Or you could just be Luigi, who's just fucking mad and brandishes a knife and, just an angry guy. And I had already gone through Chop Top, which was about a 5-hour makeup, 3.5 on, hour and a half off every day. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to go with Luigi, because I don't really want to sit in the chair for an extra 5 hours a day. So that was really, I'd like to think that I was guided by spirits, but I was just guided because I'm a lazy actor. So I said, all right, yes, how about Luigi? I'll take Luigi. And of course, that opened the door for the great Ogre of Skinny Puppy, Vancouver native. And Ogre did an amazing job as Pavi Largo. It was great. We got to work with Paris Hilton. And of course, I, like most other people, had thought, oh, Paris Hilton. But I thought she was great. She did a great job. She really was a trooper. She showed up. She did all the work. And I love Paris Hilton. So, maybe I'm on the record as saying that. But yes, I love Paris Hilton. And I thought she made it great. It was a very eclectic cast. With Sarah Brightman and Paul Sorvino and Anthony Stewart Head, and, man, oh man, just on. And it was really a great experience. Again, up in Toronto, which was where I first saw the black squirrels. So, yeah, I love those squirrels.
Yeah, I like that. That's what we're known for, though, is the black squirrels.
Black squirrels, man. Niagara Falls, the good side of Niagara Falls, and black squirrels. That's a lot.
Hey. And then you actually got to appear on one of Ogre's albums after that, didn't you? He sort of returned the favor a little bit.
Yes. Devils in My Details. Mm-hmm. And I did a bunch of spoken word on there and actually did a performance. My wife and our daughter, who was probably 10 at the time, not my wife, my daughter. And anyway, we got on stage in masks, and I declaimed, "You're killing me with bacon, America," and wife and kid, like, we're throwing masks out into the crowd. It was a lot of fun. It's about 2 blocks from my house in Los Angeles, so we had a wonderful time.
I have a feeling that there's some people that are bursting at the seam to ask some questions, so I'm going to take one right here.
How different Free from Hell would be if Captain Spaulding wasn't sick?
Good question. How different would Three from Hell have been if Captain Spaulding were able to do it? Is my translation of what you're asking. It's very interesting because it would have been different. I know that because Captain Spaulding wasn't able to do the whole movie, that Rob Zombie had to rewrite the script pretty much at the 11th hour, meaning right before we were about to shoot, and to create a new character that would take Captain Spaulding's place, not as Captain Spaulding, but his place as one of the 3, and that of course was Foxy. Played by the fantastic Richard Brake. If Sid had been able to go, the original script was, the 3 of us, Sid, me, and Sherry, basically doing the whole movie. So it would have been very different.
Has there ever been a time when you were cast for a role and you looked over the script and you spoke to the writer or the director asking if you could do something a little different?
Not really. An actor doesn't really do that until the first check clears. Then maybe you kind of try to make it a little more comfortable, but not until then. I've certainly turned down some scripts, but usually, I get on. I just think of myself really as part of the team. As an actor, I think of myself as kind of an advanced scout of reality. Like, kind of you lower into the situation, whatever the scene is. You see it from the character point of view, the story point of view. Maybe there's an extra line. There's something else you can say that conveys what the writer is trying to convey a little easier. Maybe there's a quip or an ad lib you can throw in. Sometimes the director's down with that. Other times not. But to me, it's not. I don't really talk to the writer. The only person I really focus on is the director, and sometimes most of the time that's a good idea. Other times not so good, but that's basically my job as an actor. It's like I'm a sailor and that's the captain, so that's how I do it.
Working with being involved so heavily in the music and doing Corn Bugs and then working with Phil Anselmo. Is there any other artist you would really like to work with?
I think it's a little too late for Jimi Hendrix. I don't really have, I guess, maybe the Misfits.
I noticed you got some crimson.
My Misfits patch on my jeans. Huh? All right, there you go. All right, Misfits.
But that surprises me. I mean, for such a guitar player and kind of classic rock oriented guy, the Misfits is such a. It's so simple. It's like it's the opposite of that. It's so simplistic. So I actually wouldn't have thought that you were a big fan.
Yeah, I like simple.
How did you discover the Misfits music?
I can't really remember. It goes back, through the Ramones. Like from '78 to 1986, I lived and worked in New York City, and it was a great time because that was really the beginning of that was punk and also new wave and disco. I mean, wow! Talk about three strange, strands of the rope. And of those. I liked them all. I liked all of that music. I was a big Captain Beefheart fan in college, and I'm kind of classic rock guy now. I'm like Jimmy and the Doors was like one of my favorite groups. Led Zeppelin, of course. I bought the first Black Sabbath album before I even knew I'd ever heard of Black Sabbath. I bought it because the album cover was so cool.
Yeah.
I just thought that looks fucking cool.
And scary. It scared the crap out of me as a kid. I used to look at my brothers and I'm, ooh, who's that staring back
figure
at
in
me?
black that points at me? Oh no! Beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
What was it like working with Diamond Dallas Page?
It was a lot of fun. Actually, he's a great guy. It was very funny because I had two stories. Toward in Devil's Rejects when we have been when Charlie at the horror ranch, whatever that was called, Charlie's Ranch.
Spawn.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He sold us out, and so Danny Trejo and Dallas come in to mop us up, and when Dallas came into the room where I am with Candy, E.G. Daly. He comes in, he's kind of like, he's got you now. And I did something, and he expressed real fear. So I don't know what I did. I can't even remember. I don't think I said anything, or I didn't jump. I was on the bed with E.G. Daly, so I just wasn't really doing much. But I did something, and I just remember he's like, I got you now. And then whatever I did, his face went like, he had like a little frightened moment there, which endeared him to me. Later, however, then I get thrown out the window of our little cabin, and I'm in the rolling in the dirt, and Diamond comes over and kicks me in the ribs. I'm kind of on all fours, and he comes over and he kicks me, and I expected, because he's a professional wrestler, to be able to do that in a kind of a theatrical way, but the fucker really kicked me, and I was like, wow, it fucking hurt, and so.
It's a big guy.
Yeah, he's a big guy. So it was like, ow. So our stunt coordinator, which really is the best stunt coordinator I had ever worked with before or since, Kane Hodder, I said, and he goes, oh, man, what do you need, a pad? Because we were going to do it again. And I said, yeah, how about a pad? A little late. So he gives me this pad, which is basically just like a piece of plywood. And then so we do the scene again, and this time DDP thinks, he's got a pad, so he kicks me hard again with this plywood on bruised ribs. So that was not good. But ever since then, I've been pals with Diamond, but I don't let him kick me.
So he was great to work with then.
He was great to work with. Yeah, it's a really good guy.
That's the takeaway. All right, right over here.
As long as you're not
getting kicked.
messing, tying it up with him. Yep.
Has anyone ever approached you, or have you ever considered possibly playing Freddy Krueger at any point?
I saw that online. There was some Freddy Krueger. It's kind of like the Oscar campaign. And we know what happened to that. That would just be strange, downright strange. I think the strangest. So the answer is, I heard something, I saw something online. Nothing is official. And Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. I mean, I'm not messing with that. But I do remember. There have. I actually did replace Robert Englund in 2001 Maniacs, Field of Screams, because he had done 2000 Maniacs and played Mayor Buckman in the remake of 2000 Maniacs, and then I replaced him as Mayor Buckman. That's about as far as I want to go. That was fun, but I'm not putting on the gloves.
All right. Any other questions for
Oh yeah.
Bill yet? Right there. Yep.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Whoa.
That was awesome.
Thank you. Yes, that was a friend of mine, Cord Keller, was directing that episode and hired me. We shot that in Salt Lake City. So it was, it was I think a Mormon school, so a bunch of little kids, and it was interesting because it was a episode called Lucky School, I think. And I play, a psycho. Oh my God, can you believe it? And but I now have a bomb, kind of a gasoline bomb rigged on like a little cart, and I'm with my wife, not downstairs wife, but story wife back in those days. And anyway, we come in and we're tied to this bomb, and so we're going to blow up a bunch of kids. We go into a classroom, we're going to blow up a bunch of kids. If the town doesn't give us like $400 million, it feels like kind of Dr. Evil. 400 million, and it will spare your little kids. And there's kind of a standoff, and then I think I take a bathroom break or something because I'm out of the room, and my wife has this string attached to her wrist, which is attached to the mechanism that's going to blow up the gasoline bomb. And at some point she like scratches her head, does something stupid, and like blows up the fucking bomb. And the reason it was on Unsolved Mysteries is because only she was the only one that died. She blew up, and all the kids that would have otherwise should have, I guess, blown up too, were protected by these shadows that were, kind of blackened on the walls in the shape of angels' wings. So it was supposed to be like, the angels protected the little kids from being blown up. And, I certainly liked doing it. The one lesson I learned from that was don't befriend the kids at lunch break. Because they're supposed to be scared of you, like, oh my God, we're going to get blown up, Mommy, But if they're like coming up to you at the lunch break going, hi, Bill, it's like, you got to be scared of me. But they're not, because they're thinking, that's Bill. He's an actor. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I want to go home, And then so I tried to stay away from them, and not really be mean to them, but not particularly friendly. Yep. First question: is there going to be another? After 3 from Hell, is there going to be 4 from Hell or 5 from Hell? That's a Rob Zombie question. I have no idea. At the end, well, I'm not going to get into spoilers because not everybody's seen it, but no plans that I've heard of. And, and I have a bat phone. I carry it with me. Rob's calling. Hello. And DDP Yoga, he tried to get me to do it. I'm not a big yoga guy. I do go to the gym. I like, like barbells and stuff, but So he wanted me to, but I didn't do it. Yeah.
All right, guys. So we are getting close to the end, but we'll take 2 more questions. How about that? And yep. You.
Yeah.
Yep. You.
Excluding Xanadu, what are some of your favorite film soundtracks?
Wow. Good question.
I do like Psycho. I love Bernard Herrmann. And I like Fassbinder's Veronica Voss. That's a great soundtrack. And also I love The Dark Crystal.
Well.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that guy, green guy.
When it comes to Texas Chainsaw 3D, when you had to do the role of Randy,
yep.
What was your preparation for that?
Well, I first of all, I started arguing with the producer. The producer came up to me and said, and he was also a producer on Repo, and he came up to me and he said, Bill, I want you to be in, we're doing a Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. It's back in like 2010. And he said, and I want you to play the cook. And I said, well, that's like asking, Moe to play Curly in a remake of the Three Stooges. What's the point here? Or Curly to play Moe, I should say. And he said, well, we don't have the rights to Chop Top because Chop Top is number 2, and number 2 is owned by Sony Pictures, and the original Chainsaw is owned by someone else, so we don't have the rights to Chop Top, so we want you to play the cook. So I went, okay, because I knew and loved Jim Seedow, his wife Ruth, Christmas cards every year, great pals. So I wanted to play that part. That sounded great. And then I remember talking to the producer, and he said, well, we'll have to, fix you up with a fat suit. And I said, why a fat suit? Jim Seedow was a gaunt man. He wasn't fat in the slightest. And he said, no, he was fat. And I went, well, and then this little voice in my head, which is the reason I've done 125 films, said, shut up, Bill. Shut the fuck up. He's signing the checks. I went, oh yeah, I feel okay, right? Yeah, they have the fat suit. What I had to do to prepare and shut up, Bill, and then the other part was I had to figure out he walked so weirdly. It's like his body motion was weird, and I was trying to figure out why that was and how to mimic it. And what I realized was that Jim walks with his pelvis first. A lot of times when we walk, we all kind of point our shoulders. But Jim, and here's another demonstration. Instead of walking like this, Jim kind of walks like this. Look what your brother did. So, once I got that down, it was a piece of cake.
Right. Okay, guys, standing ovation time for Mr. Bill Moseley, the living legend.